Okay, next parameter is called as a background dump destination. Please remember, I have not listed all the parameters here, but I've listed what all important parameters will be useful as a minimum qualification for a DBA, right? If you are really interested, but this list is very huge, look here, this is like 370 parameters in 19C version of database. You can read about it if you're interested. This is the link for it. I'll put it in the chat. This is available, just you can search for parameters for Oracle database and you'll find it. Okay, background dump test. Now, if you guys remember when we were looking at the database architecture, we saw a file called as alert log. Now, alert log is where all the information goes into the all information of database goes in there. So you log in, you join a company, and they ask you to check for the alert log, check if errors are occurring in alert log. How do you go looking for that alert log? Best way is just do show parameter dump. Okay, so when you do show parameter dump, it will give you background dump test, core dump, and other values. So this background dump test is what you can use, but not completely. What I generally do is I take this no, don't use background dump. This database is a little bit different, so use the core dump test. So you can just copy this value, whatever it shows you, cd into this, copy, paste, rdbms oracle 1 oracle, and you go until this oracle. That will give you the location of your folder where your alert logs will be there. Once you come to this core dump test, go into the trace directory, you will find your alert log, ls alert star. This is your alert log, right? Always, where do I go to look for the alert logs? Show parameter dump, core dump, go to this location. The key over here is, now how do I decide whether it should be a background dump or core dump? Key here is this diag directory, right? This is the main directory under which everything comes for your tracing and alert log. So look for this one. So the location until here is the base location. At this point it diverts into product folder and diag folder. So this product folder and diag folder name will remain constant everywhere. Any version of the database, you will see the structure same way. So it would be easy for you. Always remember alert log, look for this diag folder when you do show parameter dump. Okay, so this parameter basically shows you where the trace files for all this background processes, log writer, db writer, everything go. So here along with our alert log, we have trace files also, right? So if I do ls star lgwr log writer trace file, lowercase, ls minus ltr star lgwr star. You see, these are the log writer trace files. So this is at the location of either core dump or background dump destination. So that is one parameter which will be helpful to you. Next parameters is called as a compatible. So compatible, what happens is, you have so many versions of database, and Oracle keeps on bringing in new features, new security features which will be helpful for a company. So what companies do is they keep on jumping to the latest version which is available. Earlier it was 11G, then 12C, then 19C, 21C, 23C. So various versions are there, right? So sometimes what happens, if you go to a higher version, say if I go to 12C to 19C, the behavior of database will change because many parameters get changed. In that case, if you don't want your database behavior to change, you can use this compatible parameter. If you set this parameter same to what it was earlier, say let us see what is our parameter here, right? Show parameter compatible. Okay, here it's 12.2. So my database is also 12.2 and parameters is also 12.2. Okay, so if I upgrade this database to 19C, and keep the value of compatible to 12.2 only, the database will still act like it is in 12.2. It will not impact any of your database performance to what happens in 19c. Slowly you can change the compatible parameter after you have validated your database end to end and everything looks good. You can update, but it's not necessary. You can leave the compatible to the previous version as it was earlier. So to avoid any drastic changes due to upgrade of database, application team complaining my jobs are running slow, all those can be avoided by DBA if you know about this parameter compatible. Okay, always if you are doing an upgrade, remember, try to keep this parameter to what it was in the previous version. Then comes another parameter which is related to a control file. So we saw that control file is very important file. It has lot of information of the database. It's kind of the main machine behind your database to run. If control file is corrupted, your database will not start. Okay, so this is very important. So for the control file also, this parameter file has this information. So always remember, this is what happens when database starts, right? When you say startup database, first it will read the p file or sp file depending on what you are asking it to read. Second, it will get the location of control file from this p file. Okay, so it gets the location of the control file. So which is the parameter which gives us the location? The location is this control underscore files parameter. So let us see what is the location of my control file. I'll do show parameter control. So my control files are in this location: home oracle app, oracle, ora data, orcl, control 01. I have two control files, so both control files will be updated at the same time by database. I'm just making multiple copies so that one goes wrong, I have another one available. So these are the two control files which I have. So it once it reads this sp file, it gets the location where the control file is there. Right, now what it does, once it got the location of control file, it will go and read the control file. When it's reading the control, what all it's checking? SCN, when DB was stopped, right? At what SCN database stopped. And control file also has location of all data files, redo log files, right? So it takes all of this, and what it does is it checks if SCN of control file and SCN of data files are same. This is a very important condition for database to open. Once it able to read the control file, the database goes in what is called as a mount state, right? Here it is just starting. I mean, here it is like no mount state. Okay, your database is in no mount once it's tried to read the p file. Once it's able to read the control file, it is in mount state. Now at this point, if control file is corrupted, it will never go in mount state. If it's not in mount state, it cannot go in open state. So it's like the steps. You have to first go into no mount, then you can go to mount, then you have to go to open. It checks if SCN of control file and SCN of data files are same. Once this condition is met, it opens the database. If this condition is not met, it clearly says you condition not met. It says I need recovery. So this is kind of advanced concept. Recovery will go there later, but control file SCN, data file header SCN has to match. That is when the uh, database will open. Now coming back to our topic, so this parameter will give us the location of the control file for a database to know where exactly the control file is. Always remember, database is not some magic happening in the backend. It has to get all the values required from somewhere. Where is it getting all the values to start the database? From the parameter file. Parameter file is the first file database checks when it is starting the database. This is again an interview question. What is the first file which database checks while starting the database? Parameter file. Second file, control files. Okay, then it opens the database if all the conditions match. Again, interview question: what are the conditions need to be in place for database to open? If they really want to see if you know the basic knowledge how database works, right? They can ask that one also. So again, another parameter is control file record keep time. So control file record keep time basically decides for how many days I have to keep that all that information in the control file. In control file, there are different sections. We'll come to that later. But how many days I need to keep this information in the control file? This by default is 7 days. Okay, up to 7 days it keeps that information, and on the 8th day it will delete the information of the first day. So that will not corrupt the control file or lose some information. It will only delete the information which is not required by the database, so it is safe. You can leave this parameter to 7, no worries, your database will work without any issues. Okay, next is CPU count. Now your server, when we created this what is this, when we created this machines, right, we gave something called as a memory and hard disk, and there was another parameter which is nothing but the CPU. So your server has memory, CPU, two important things which it needs to run. So your server might have, this server we have how much CPU. Okay, I don't think so we have that here, but I'll show you on the server. Okay, so ls CPU will give us the CPU at the operating system level. See here, here CPU is here one CPU. We have one CPU. I created this machine with one CPU because we are not doing much processing on this one. So with one CPU, and I can use that one CPU for database. So this parameter will help us to decide how much, if my machine has, in companies the machines will have more CPUs. This is a small server for testing for class purpose, right? So it's very small. So in companies you'll have 32 CPU, 64 CPU, right? So you cannot really use all the 64 CPU. They might given that for keeping multiple databases. You have to limit the CPU depending on how much a database might need. Again, how can you decide how much a database will need? That information will be in your application document. Your application document will specifically in the database requirement section, it will specifically that say that a machine should be of so many CPUs, say for example 16 CPU, and database can use 8 CPUs out of that one. So that will be specific. If it is not there, minimum give it 8 CPU. If your database has 16, just give half of it, right? If your database has 8 CPUs, then just give 4 CPUs, just half of it. Okay, next one is DB block buffers. So DB block buffers, if you remember this architecture diagram, so this database buffer, right, how much space to allocate for the database buffer? So that is decided by this parameter which is called as a DB block buffers. So depending on how much value we have here, it will assign so much value. Again, when database starts, it is reading this value also before it starts the database. So multiple things happen in the background. One is your control file, which is one important part, and how much memory to assign, it is comes from the DB block buffers. Again, somebody asks you how much is the size of the buffer cache. You don't know what is the parameter for that one. Just they show parameter buffer. They're telling buffer cache. I'll just say show parameter buffer. So it gives a few buffers in which DB block buffer, database buffer, DB means database, block buffer. Here it's 0. Why it is 0? We'll come to that in few minutes. But here it is 0. And another parameter log buffer. This is basically the this redo log buffer, size of this redo log buffer. So we got it how this one is sized, this one is sized. Now let's proceed with other parameters. And database block size, we saw this DB block size. This is a OS dependent parameter. DB cache size. DB cache size is for the default buffers, which is in where was that? It was a default buffer. Let me see. I think in shared SQL we saw the default buffer somewhere. I think in this data dictionary, I guess we have the default buffer. Okay, here. Okay, I think in data dictionary cache that buffer will be decided like data cache buffer, right? This one. So all this is basically memory components, cache, buffer. All this are decides the different components in this one. DB create file destination size. So this basically gives us the information where exactly your data files are created in your database. Again, check in my database, show parameter db file dest. What is that? Db create file dest. So here the value is not set. So sometimes if it is not set, it will by default. No, wait. db create file dest, right? Show parameter create. There's another parameter also depends on this one. Okay, I'll check on that. This parameter, there's another parameter which kind of decides if db create file list is not set, then the other parameter comes into picture. I'll find it out and I'll tell you. So the next parameter is db create online log destination. Online log destination is basically where your redo logs go, online redo logs go, which is nothing but this one. Online redo logs, right? This one, where exactly those are saved. DB files. DB files is basically how many database files can you create for this database. So show parameter db underscore files. So this database, I can create a maximum of 200 data files. So as your database gets bigger, more and more data is dumped into the database from application. You might need to change these parameters to a higher value. Again, this parameter, it will not let you change on the fly. You will have to restart the database because the sp file has that information, and you cannot really ask the database to create more files on the fly. You have to shut it down and start it again once this parameter is changed. db underscore files. db keep cache size. This is for the keep Java pool keep keep cache size is for the result cache. It stores that result cache for the in this one, that is a keep pool size. Then we have db name, which gives us the database name. What is the database name of my database? Show parameter name. You don't need to really give the complete name of the parameter, just give a part of it and it will show. So this is my database name, db name, oracle one. So there is another parameter called as db unique name that comes into picture when you have a standby database. When we get to that standby database, I will tell you what exactly those db unique name is useful for. Okay, then you have something called as db recovery file destination. So all your archive logs, if you enable archive log mode, these archive logs, right? These archive logs, when archive log is enabled, how to enable archive log? We have a chapter for that, don't worry. When archive logs enable, it creates the archive log somewhere. So where should it create that archive log? It can give that location over here. And also the flashback logs also go into the same location of DB recovery file destination. Right, and how much size you want to give for the destination to keep those archive logs, you can decide that one also. In again, the location, the value is given in bytes. Instance name, like database has the storage and the instance, right? So this, it, you can give a name for the instance also, that is depicted in the instance name. If it is a RAG database, then it will give you a number of for the instance also. Like RAG database, I said storage is one. You will have multiple instances, multiple doors to get into the database. So you'll have more. The number will specify which instance it is. Java pool size, that is for the Java pool in this architecture. This is for the Java pool. Then streams pool also, we can set the streams pool size. Java pool, large pool size. This is the session parameters, which we already saw, number of connections it will allow. And the SGA value, right? SGA target. So SGA target would be the size of this whole SGA. You can even set this size. You can either set individual size of this buffers so that you DBA can handle how much memory to give, or you can just give that SGA value and it will decide what to give. So when you give a SGA value directly, instead of giving specific values, all this buffers value will be 0. That is why we saw that DB buffer value was 0. Where was that? Here. DB block buffer was 0 because I have given the SGA. Let me see how much is the SGA. Show parameter SGA. So I have told it, okay, take 1872 MB, that is nothing but 1.8 GB of memory for SGA, and you decide how much you want to give values for the remaining memory components. So I only set this SGA level parameter. Remaining all shared pool, large pool, fixed Java, Java pool, buffer cache, read log buffer cache, I leave it to the database to decide how to give. Database, depending on how much space is required, it might reduce the space, increase the space. It will do that computations by its own. So you don't need to think how much I should give buffer cache, how much I should give log buffer cache, all those things. So you just give the SGA and database will do the computation for you. Again, if you want to individually give the shared pool size and everything, these are the parameters to use. Log archive destination, we will come to this when we go to the standby database. I just put it because these are important, but if I explain you now, then it won't make any sense for you guys, so we'll look at that later. Log buffer, again for the redo logs buffer. Archive lag target also we'll see when we do the standby database. There is another parameter which is called as the memory target. So if you see here, there are two things here, right? One is SGA, one is PGA. Okay, so you can specifically give values for smaller components of memory, or you can give value for SGA that will take care of the all the components in this one. And you can separately give value for PGA, which will take care of this block, how much memory to assign. Now, if you don't want to do that one also, you say, I don't want to think on how much SGA to give, how much PGA to give, but I want to give 4 GB memory to database. In that case, you can use that parameter which is called as a memory max target or memory target. So what this one will do is it will take that 4 GB, and database will decide how much to give to SGA, how much to give to PGA. None of DBA's headache. Okay, so just give that value to the database. Database will do its computation, and depending on how much value will give this database maximum performance, it will set that one. This memory max target and memory target. So here on my database, this values might be 0 because I am not using that particular parameter memory. See here, memory max target and memory target is 0. Now, if I set these values, then this SGA will automatically become 0 because database will decide accordingly internally. We don't have control on that parameter. So either you give SGA, PGA, or you give memory max target and memory target. That is the decision you can make. That's a DBA skill. But I would suggest, if your application document says like the database must have so much SGA and so much PGA, then you have your answer. If you don't want to fall in that one, you know you have 8 GB memory available on the server, take 4 GB and say memory max target is 4 GB, and let database do whatever it has to do internally. Okay. Any questions until now?
No.
Okay. So PG aggregate target, again for that is for the memory. Processes parameter, we saw number of operating system process in the database. These NLS parameters, right? NLS underscore calendar, NLS underscore currency, NLS underscore date format, NLS underscore dual currency. So these are for companies who have business in countries where English is not the first language. For example, UAE or Saudi and all those countries, English is not their first language. They speak Arabic, and most of their reading and talking and typing also goes into Arabic. For those users who don't know how to read English or they're not fluent in reading English, for them, the Oracle database can show everything in their own language. So depending on what in their own time zones. So depending on what calendar you set, Arabic Hijra, English Hijra, or Gregorian, so it will change the calendar accordingly to their country calendar. Okay. Again, currency. Every country has a different currency, so you have the capability of changing the currency. Date format also you can change. You can either give MMDDYY or DDMMYY, because in US it's MMDDYY. In India, it's the date comes first and the month comes next. So those differences also Oracle says, depending on which country you are using the database, you can change this parameter and you'll see the date in that particular format. Wherever you see the date in the tables, wherever you see a database level, that will be the change. Again, the currency, every country has a different currency. So if your business runs in US, you can have currency set as dollars. If your business runs in UK, you can set it pound. What if your business runs in two different countries, London and US? Then you can set this parameter for the second currency you want to set. You can set it as euro. That way it will show the territory. Whatever calculations or reports is pulled from the Europe side, it will show you in pounds. Whatever reports are pulled at or information pulled on the US side, it will show you in dollars. Okay. Undo management. Okay, this one is twice. Twice. Anyways. So undo management, right? So undo is basically information like in your Excel, or you have Word, MS Word and everything. You have this option of undoing, right? You did something wrong, you can go back and undo it, or you can redo it. So undo is also in database is also of same component, same meaning. Say for example, somebody wanted to update the table in the database, and they updated it wrongly. Some command, they wanted to update only two entries in the table. By mistake, the condition which they gave that met 20 entries, and it updated the 20 entries in table. Now that is a change which happened on the database. So if you want to roll back that change, this undo parameters would be of too much help. So you can mention undo retention, like for how many minutes or how many hours you want to save that information. So what it does is, just before changing, it makes a copy of those blocks, what information we have in the blocks, and it puts it into the undo table space. Right, it keeps it in undo table space. Now in any point of time you want to roll back those changes, there are different commands to roll back the changes, and application team says I want to roll back this transaction, there was a mistake. Then you check this undo retention period, and if that change happened in that period, say if undo retention is set to 10 hours, and the change which happened was within the 10 hours, you can go back. But if the change happened beyond those 10 hours, then you cannot go back, nobody can help. You have to just try to get that information from a different way, which we have a different way. We can check that in the later chapters, how to get the data back. Right, there are various methods. It's not like we cannot do it. We have different uh, ideas. We can apply that and get the data, but undo retention is one of the fastest way to roll back the changes. So these three go hand in hand. Undo table space is basically the table space in which all that undo information will go. Undo retention is for how much time you want to keep that undo information. And undo management is whether you want to do that undo processing automatic, or you want to go with the manual way. Always keep it to automatic. That way you don't DB need not worry about whether the undo management is happening or not. Again, there's a parameter called sp file. This will give you the location of the parameter file. If it is a sp file, it will give you the location of the sp file. And there is another parameter which is called as a p file. If it is a p file, it will give you the location of the p file. Show parameter sp file, show parameter p file. Okay, here even though I'm doing show parameter p file, it is giving me the information of sp file because my database is using the sp file. If my database would have used the p file, it would have shown the p file, and would have given the location of the p file. So this is repeated. Let me see. Okay, that's it. So these are few of the important parameters which can be useful to you. Let me know if you have any questions.
So they all this theory they will ask in interviews, right? Only theoretical part will
They
be.
might ask you what is the use of this undo retention.
Mm.
What is the use of undo table space? I'll show you how this undo. Show parameter undo. So undo management is auto. Undo retention is 900. So this information is in seconds. Okay, this parameter keeps this value is set in seconds. So 900 seconds is, you can just do the calculation. So 900 divided by 60. So right now we have an undo retention of 15 minutes. So if the changes happened within 15 minutes and we got to know that it was changed, then we can do the undo. Yeah, they will ask you what this particular parameter does. Again, see, I don't want to record this one, but yeah, they will ask you if that changes, if this what exactly this parameter is about.